Gloria, and this show is called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. The show was originally started because we had interviews with people on the that sort of cult classic, What the Bleep Do We Know? And I'd been in India for 4 years after we had done interviews with people who were stars on the movie. And when I came back, I found that these interviews that were about 7 years old, I felt went into the topics much more deeply. So I got this idea to start a new public access show called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. Prior to that, I had had a public access show called The Whole Tooth, where I went into holistic dentistry and how teeth are concerned with all parts of the body. And then I used the theme of holistic dentistry to deal with all parts of society. How if something's off in one area, it's going to affect another area. So today I have a very special guest with me. His name is Hajnen Payson. And Hajnen is the man that's responsible for getting me on YouTube. And I have now about 180 or so shows posted on YouTube. And this is the reason I did it, is because coming to your workshop. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. When I first to an intro that you were giving, you were talking about the importance of video with search optimization, search engine optimization.
And search engine marketing, yes.
Can you explain to the audience what that's about?
Sure. Search engine optimization basically refers to, if you have a website, you want your website to be found. For example, we're going to use Google as the example. When you type into Google a keyword, let's, for example, talk about 9/11. You'd want your web page or your video to show up on, for example, the first page of Google. In order to have
you want it the first page because people don't have patience to go into the
normally,
millionth page? Because sometimes there's a lot of pages.
Google will display approximately 1,000 pages, although it might say 1 out of 1,000,000 results. They'll only going to display approximately now 1,000 pages. So if you go past that, it's just not going to be, anything will be shown. But most people do not go past the 3rd page or so on Google, Yahoo, MSN, any of the search engines.
So 1,000 pages means that there's 1,000 other websites on that topic.
Well, it's actually
because a page is about 10 entries or so?
Okay, on every page of the search engine, there are 10 results. Those 10 results are a web page for the website. Every website can have...
For the topic that you...
Right. A website might have thousands of web pages. All of those web pages combined make a website. What the search engines do is they're only going to display that web page. So, for example...
That's relevant to
right.
what you're searching for.
Right. So if you have a website on search engine marketing, what's going to happen is you might do a search, and then you'll see that it's either the home page or a sub-page that's being displayed. And that's what you're going to see. So that's the web page, and that's why it's very important to, whatever you're doing, whatever you're looking to promote, whatever you're looking to garner exposure for, that you incorporate search engine optimization, which is basically creating buzz, online buzz for your website. And then what you have is what's called search engine marketing, which incorporates search engine optimization. That includes also what we call paid advertising on the web. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much a very rough description of what that is.
Everybody knows the internet now to be something that's sort of a media for the people.
Right.
And that it's content driven and it's not driven by special interests that have money. But this is changing?
Yes. There's a lot of money to be made online.
No, not money to be made. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, and that's why it's still a medium where somebody without any financial backing can still have a voice. Mm-hmm. And they can garner a lot of attention and a lot of buzz online. But the traditional corporate entities realize the amount of money that's there. And they are putting in a lot of funding to ensure that they can now capitalize on that. So it's important that anyone that's looking to have their voice on the web, they start doing it now. And by
They
doing
start doing. They
yeah,
should.
they should be. They
They
should be
should
doing
be.
this now. Yeah.
Now you say they should be doing this now because,
Yes.
as opposed to then, because things are going to change.
Right. It's changing. It's changing dramatically. Every day you have properties being purchased and bought up by traditional corporate entities.
What does that mean, properties?
What's happening is, let's just say, for example, a website that might be what we call an interactive community. An interactive community is where I have a voice, you have a voice, whether we're just traditional text, where we're typing things and we're creating content that way, or whether it's, for example, whether it's video hosting, for example, like YouTube. Now, YouTube was formed and there was absolutely no monetization at all. They were not making money with YouTube,
Right.
but now Google bought it. So that's what I mean by that. You have all of these websites that are now being purchased by larger companies for the purpose of then further monetizing them. So it's very important that if you're looking to do something, to create it in a sense where you're creating a community.
I see. Now, let me use my example.
Sure.
I used YouTube because I could do it for free.
Right.
Now, I could also do it for free on, say, for example, Blip TV, and I wanted to because it sort of seemed sort of more politically resonant, you know, something about YouTube and big money. I was sort of like the underdog. But I found that I didn't have the traffic that I did on YouTube.
Yes.
And even sometimes I thought, well, maybe YouTube is not very serious, and my topics are more serious, and sometimes they're kind of slurring comments. But pretty soon I found that if somebody left a nasty comment, I could click into their site, see what their videos were like, what their favorites were like, and sometimes I would learn something, you know, and so I like to kind of challenge myself by getting a different viewpoint. Other times I would see that they were sort of spouting off just for the sake of spouting off, and then I could call them on it by calling everybody else's attention to how seriously should I take, you know, something that had some of these ridiculous videos on. But it created a lot of interesting interaction that if I was just to go and set up a website, I don't know if I'd have that.
Correct. Unless you were able to capitalize on all of these other interactive sources to then drive that traffic back to your site. And that's one of the major reasons why, for example, you have a site like Delicious, which is social bookmarking, which is what YouTube is to videos. Social bookmarking is to just saving a web page that you like in a transparent folder that everyone can view.
It's like your favorites in
Yes,
YouTube.
absolutely.
YouTube has something where you can take videos that you like, you call them your favorites.
Right.
And when you put that on your site, then other people can come and see what your favorites
Absolutely.
are. They
And
can even subscribe to them.
Right, and that's exactly what that's where the web is going. And
Excuse me, they're like subscribing to your taste. They're trusting you as a certain authority, I guess, even if you don't produce the videos.
Well, yes, what they're basically saying is that whatever they've seen, whatever they've read, they've enjoyed it to the point that they want more. So they're basically saying, okay, add me to your list.
Right.
I'm interested, so anytime you're doing something, let me know.
Right.
And they're going to basically come back every time you do something new to see what's going on.
Right.
And that's where the web is going, and that's where the term Web 2.0 was coined. The web used to be all about static content. Create a website, put it out there, and then that's it.
Web
2.0.
2.0. What's that mean?
It just basically is a way to define the internet in a sense that it's going to be, it is, and it's going to,
Interactive?
right, a lot more dynamic, a
Right.
lot more interactive, where the old static style websites are going to be a thing of the past. Where
That
if you're,
is so interesting.
yeah, if your website was just strictly, let me put up a few pages of information, whether it's to actually garner sales, or whether it's actually to sell a service, or whether it's just to promote a product or your interests or create buzz, that's going to be a thing of the past. It still works to some degree now on certain engines, but if you really look at the most traffic terms on the internet, they're controlled by dynamic interactive sites. And these sites, when I mean dynamic and interactive, a blog is considered a dynamic and interactive a site. And that's nothing more than having a regular website, but just giving your visitors the ability to comment, to provide feedback, to create a user experience, a community.
You know, that user experience in that community is so precious that I think a lot of corporations are faking it. They're
Yes.
pretending to put up sort of funky, lame videos, but when you look at it, it doesn't have the kind of depth and content that you do when you have the real community member. When you connect with a real community member, it's exciting. And I find that my videos that I work very hard on, because I have a great belief in public access, after I post a 28-minute video, what's becoming just as interesting are the comments that I get from people, my comments to them, and then other people's comments on that. I mean,
Right.
it becomes like a think tank.
Yes, and that's exactly what you're doing is when you provide feedback to somebody that's left feedback for you, you're creating an interactive experience. And what you're doing is you're creating an environment where you are not self-serving, but where you are trying to promote a community experience. And that is always appreciated, and you will always have people leaving more feedback. You'll have
Right.
people subscribing to your feed, and they want to know what you're doing because they see that it's not a sense where, are you doing this for another reason? And that's
Right.
very important.
You know, one person left a comment and said, "I wish that woman would shut the hell up," you know. And I took a look at it, and I knew why it was that way, because at MNN we have rules that two producers can't be on at the same time. So I had spoken over some event where there were other producers. To do it otherwise meant hours and hours of re-editing. But because of this comment, I figured if I got one comment like that, how many other people were also annoyed? Even though I had many stars on it, I had a lot of traffic to it. I reposted it and put in a lot more because it was a whole event here at MNN. And I told her, I said, "I'm the one that you told to shut the hell up." And she wrote the nicest letter back. And she said, "I never would have behaved that way myself. Make me a subscriber." You know? And that's the kind of thing that can happen. If somebody gives me a hard time, I answer them. I find I get 10 friends,
Right.
new friends watching that.
Absolutely.
You
And
know?
and that's why it's so important to anything that you do online, create it in a format that you feel, if you were the viewer, you would have some, you would obtain usefulness from it.
Right.
And what the engines are basically looking for is quality content. Now, anything that's quality, someone might say, well, what's quality to one person is not going to be quality to someone else. Well, the idea is the demographics and the people you're looking to target, create something that you would find useful in the same aspect, and you will create that community. And the idea is it doesn't take a lot to create the buzz, to create an interactive community. It takes commitment, it takes sincerity, and what you should never do is be self-serving, and it will just work on its own.
Self-serving means that you just want to stand on a soapbox and preach and preach
Yes.
and preach.
Yeah, most
That's
people what they do
self-serving.
is say someone has a website where they're promoting a product or a service, or they're
Right.
selling a DVD. They'll create a blog around that so they can actually generate buzz and exposure.
Right.
And of course, when you have a blog, every new blog post is now a new entry point to your website. And when you title it correctly, now that gives you so many more entry points where someone can find you.
Right.
Well, the problem is most people create a blog post, and what they do is they talk about why their product or why what they're doing is better than someone else, which is okay if you're going to then allow someone else to say, well, I don't agree, and let me tell you why mine is better. Or, for example, if you're going to then just, someone leaves a comment and you don't even bother answering it.
Right.
What it looks like is you're just trying to promote your own ideas.
Right.
So you really want to make it where it's more of a community. It's
Right.
similar to like in the old days when we used to have forums. A forum
Right.
is just basically a community where we go, we post about things, we talk about things, and it could be anything from technology
Right.
to social aspects, what's going on, and you just basically create a user experience. But what happened is people realized, wait a
A
second.
user experience.
Yeah, what happened is people said, well, if I have my website, the search engines need content. I'm posting in forums all the time, but I'm not creating content from my website. So that's where blogs started coming in. If I put a blog on my website, what's happening now is I'm creating that content from my website. So the more content I have, the more links I can garner.
You're creating content for your website because
Right.
even though you're leaving messages here, there, and everywhere, this search engine is keeping track of it.
Right.
And they're kind of rating you.
Yeah, well, the search engines basically say, okay, if you want to be found for a specific term, you need to have enough quality content on your site with links. we have to find you. Now, those links
And
need to be quality too.
So the links are to the blogs. So
Yeah, well, what happens is, just for example, you have a blog on your website. You post something. I find it very interesting. I go back to my blog and I write about you and I link to you. Now there's a link going to your blog. On top of that, you now have more content because you put a blog post on your site. So it's if you want to be found in the search engines, it's about having quality content and quality links. And when, for example, let's talk about YouTube. What YouTube is similar to the old days with forums. You would go to a central location, and if here people are putting video up, and it's just a central location because they have a lot of traffic. But at the same time, it will create exposure for you, but it's not doing anything for your specific website itself. So it's always good to whatever video you put there, also put it on your website.
Right.
Let people find your website also.
Right. Well, I haven't been attending to my website or my blog, but I do appear a lot in the search engines because of the YouTube.
Right. YouTube it's very powerful.
Right. Now, when you talk about a user experience, that's different than being entertained. By user, you mean you're not only taking the information as a user, you're responding to that information.
Well, it's both ways, meaning if I'm searching strictly for information, not per se entertainment, but I'm looking for quality information, and I come across something that you wrote on a blog, for example, an article you put on your site, or your video, that basically now satisfied my quest for information. Because I was looking for something, I found it, and now this is something that I could go back and either tell other people about or link to myself. The entertainment aspect comes in, of course, when I'm searching for something that's maybe more lighthearted, something more entertaining, and I'm just looking for something lighter. But it gives me the ability to create where I can leave feedback.
Now, a lot of the M&N producers will be really interested in, is there any way that they can be rewarded for this? What does monetization mean?
Monetization basically means that any of your efforts that you're putting a lot of time into creating your videos, uploading your videos, and making sure people could find you, and making it an interactive experience. If I leave a comment, you read my comment, you actually leave feedback based upon my comment.
Right.
So you're putting time in there. Monetization is basically taking a way to monetize that so you could earn some type of revenue. On YouTube, there's really no revenue generation source that you're going to capitalize on. If it was on your website or on a blog, for example, that video is now on your blog, there's multiple revenue streams, from anything from advertisers, ads, to Google AdSense as a program, for example, or affiliate programs. For example, like Azoogle has programs that you could utilize. But there's not going to be anything on YouTube directly. What YouTube does is YouTube is a platform that enables an individual to create buzz and exposure for what they're doing. And that in itself can then translate to traffic back to their site.
Right.
Especially if you sign up, if you have a YouTube account, make sure it's set up as a director. With the director, you have a link back to your site or your blog, whereas if you set up through an irregular traditional account, you will not have that benefit.
Right.
So that's an important aspect.
Where, more people log on to YouTube than ABC, NBC, all of the other traditional channels combined, I heard. Do you know if that's so?
I don't know the statistics on that. I know that as far as the video hosting platforms, YouTube has the most traffic for video hosting platforms. Again, it's also demographics, and it's also your target, your market, as far as what you're looking for. YouTube, the traffic there is also very generic. There are people looking for specifics, but they're lumping traffic generically. Where someone who's logging into, for example, NBC might be more of a specific demographic. So it just really depends on what you're looking for.
Okay, I heard that cable is going to go the way of the dodo, and the whole future is the internet. What do you think about that? Is that so or not?
I definitely believe so. There are a lot of major portals, a lot of major websites right now that have video interaction directly on their homepage. And what they are is they're e-commerce sites. And so when you land on the site, instead of the traditional way of looking for a product and then looking at an image and then making a decision to buy it, of course there's some text there, it's video. So what you do is you're clicking on that and you're seeing a video being displayed about that product.
So you don't have to go shopping.
Correct. It's going to be
physically with your body.
Right. They're taking the video format and applying it to all of the traditional products and service industries. on top of that, all of the news services are going to be, as time goes on now, they're going to be totally streaming online. Whereas you're not going to go to a news platform site and just say, okay, let me click and read an article. You still might be able to, but it's going to be just like logging on to just turning on the TV. It's going to be just like that. You're going to have the same platform technology.
My experience on an energetic level is I get something very rewarding from YouTube, but there's something very, very special about this public access station and the physical cable that goes through the dirt in Manhattan,
Right.
and to know that at 11:30 every morning I'm making this connection that I hope I'm worthy of, and I'm always striving to bring more provocative material to a community that I have loved so much. There's something about the earthiness of
Right.
cable that I think is important to balance with the etherealness of YouTube. I have 150 subscribers from all over the world, people from Finland and Romania, and it's fascinating when I can have some discussions. There's just not enough time in the day to
Yes.
capitalize on all the connections, but so much of it is from the credibility that I get when people know that I'm a producer in Manhattan. I mean, the world looks to this
Right.
dirt, this physical place. What do you have to say about that with sort of grounding the internet? Remember the dot-coms went crashing some
Right.
years back?
Well,
Do you have any insights?
Yeah, they went crashing, but what happened is, my whole take on that crash was it was really just very poor judgment on funding sources. I mean, people were throwing money left and right at companies that had absolutely no...
No roots?
Yeah, it's not even the roots, it's just their total business plan was mush. There was nothing there, so money was just lost, hand over foot. But I mean, there was major recovery. I mean, businesses are doing great. The internet grows. There's more money being made every year, year after year. As far as what you're saying, there is two ways to look at it. Everything that you do offline could be taken online in the same format. So the same feeling of being rooted, you can just pass on to there.
If you have a certain integrity, like I noticed the way dialogue goes on the internet, it's almost like when you log on or you're online, it's like it sort of puffs up your etheric ego, and the way the language goes, you see people, there's no other way to say it, and I don't mean ego in a bad way.
Right.
That you have a confidence that you get from being online, and sometimes it gets a little out of control, and when you call someone on it, then you feel this shrinking go really quick. It's almost like another language. To find the groundedness, I do believe you can do it, but I think it takes a lot of commitment, and you have to put something human and deep from inside you into it.
It's exactly that. It's accountability, and it's transparency. The more transparent you are, the more accountable you are. You'll be able to take everything from offline online. A lot of the online marketers and a lot of the online retailers and everyone that's involved with the interactive communities, the biggest problem is transparency. People do not go by their names. They do not let you know anything about them.
Right.
They're not accountable for things. You don't know what is and what isn't. But when someone is transparent and they are putting forward everything, well, here it is. You could check out this. You can verify this. You are then able to take everything from offline to an online aspect. And the more transparent you are and the more accountable you are, the more respected you will be, and the more you're going to have a greater presence.
That is so true. I gave my home number to people on occasions, and I got a call from a lady with multiple sclerosis in Southern California, and gave her some insights about Ayurvedic medicine. It was so rewarding. And it couldn't have happened if I can't give out my home number. And I go, why can't I give out my home number?
That's why people, people don't even want to use their real name online.
Yeah.
They use, pseudo names. They don't use, they still like to be anonymous. And the problem with that is you're not going to create the level of trust that you were talking about, for example, being rooted.
Right.
Being rooted offline, you have that level of trust that you can then pass online.
Right.
And for people that don't have the ability to have this type of setup that you do, and they can do the same thing as long as they have to be credible, They have to be real, they have to be sincere, they have to be transparent.
Right.
And they just, you know, whatever you're going to do, be accountable.
I find that so interesting, Hajnen, so interesting. Right now we have this thing called voter fraud. As Webster Tarpley clarified, he said, what a ridiculous term. It's like little voters are going around creating fraud. It's voting fraud.
Right.
Now, if computers can track our tastes, they know what we buy, where we go,
it's
what
happening
we
right
like,
now, yeah.
they surely can know who we want to vote for. So we can see how this think tank kind of thing could develop in a direction where we have a very rewarding society. If we have transparency and accountability.
Absolutely. If you're logged in to Google, Yahoo, any of the major engines, if you're logged in because you have an account created with them, they're basically tracking and data mining everything you've searched for and everything you're viewing and everything you're doing. And there's a thing what's called personalized search. Personalized search is basically if I do a search, for example, for Italian restaurant in Manhattan, I'm going to get a different set of results maybe than you would for personalized search. But more or less if I search for a restaurant.
Oh, really?
If I search for a restaurant and everything I search for is Italian, I'm searching for Italian restaurants all the time. Now I just put in a term restaurant in Manhattan.
And it
It's
knows,
going to because I've done the searches for Italian restaurants
wow,
before.
they know what you like.
It's personalized search, and so what they're doing is they're basically data mining everything you're doing,
Right.
and they have a profile on you.
Right.
And that profile is pretty much okay. If Paula has been searching for these things, and now you have to be logged in for this to
Right.
be utilized. They now have a very good profile of who you are, what you're about, and possibly your voting preferences and your party preferences.
A minute. We only have a minute and a half left, Hajnen. This is such an enormous topic.
Yeah, it's huge.
I mean, let's end on what's your ideal client? Who can you serve the best, and what do you look for in a product that you want to optimize on the web?
A product that actually can benefit more than just be self-serving, but actually has a benefit to mankind. Something that's beneficial, something that's useful for the user.
Who are some of your favorite clients? Because you talked about a little mortgage company that you were able to make bigger. Or
yeah, I've worked
you
with
help
all
people that
types.
don't have that much
yeah,
money.
a lot of the clients I've worked with were smaller mom and pops that did not have the visibility, and it's always rewarding to take someone from the depths of obscurity and raise them up through the engines, which can still be done. It just has to be done in certain formats utilizing social media and social marketing.
And I bet all people have to do is write Hajnen Payson in Google and they find you.
They'll find me through right. Yes,
What
my
a
name is so.
It was just so custom made for the times, huh?
Yes.
Great. Well, in the future, I hope to have you back and we can go more into the aspects of how Google does searches, because I've had certain videos up that I would expect to get more traffic, and others that sort of pop up. So anyway, this is Paula Gloria, and this has been Farther Down the Rabbit Hole, and we've been looking at web engine optimization. It's one of the fascinations of the internet. So